The buzzer hadn't even stopped echoing when everyone realized something impossible had just happened, and if you stay until the very end of this story, you'll understand why the judges, the crowd, and millions watching at home were left breathless in under 5 seconds. Before we dive in, remember moments like this don't happen every day, so if you love stories that give you chills, tap that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us, because what unfolds here is bigger than talent, it's about hope. Backstage, the air smelled like nerves and cheap coffee. Contestants paced, whispered prayers, stretched fingers, and checked mirrors. Among them stood Eli Carter, a thin 17-year-old with scuffed sneakers, a wrinkled jacket 2 sizes too big, and eyes that carried both fear and fire. He wasn't supposed to be there, not really. At least that's what life had been telling him for years. He came from a small town where dreams were something you watched on a screen, not something you chased. His mother worked double shifts at a diner, his father had left when he was 9, and music was the only place Eli ever felt safe. When his name was called, he froze. For half a second, he thought he might faint. The producer nudged him gently, and suddenly he was walking toward the stage, the lights blinding, the crowd a dark ocean of sound. His hands trembled as he stepped onto the AGT stage, and the judges smiled politely, the way they do when they don't know what's coming. Simon leaned back, arms crossed. Howie tilted his head. Sophia smiled warmly. Heidi gave an encouraging nod. Eli introduced himself, voice cracking just enough for the audience to hear the fear beneath his words. He talked about his mom watching from home, about practicing in his bedroom with the door closed so neighbors wouldn't laugh. When Simon asked why he came, Eli swallowed hard and said, "Because this is the only place where my dream feels real." The room softened, but no one was prepared for what came next. The music cue never played. No backing track. No dramatic build-up. Eli lifted his hands, closed his eyes, and in the first 5 seconds, the entire theater changed. His voice came out raw, powerful, and heartbreakingly honest, like it had been waiting years to be heard. It wasn't just singing, it was a confession. The very first note rang with pain, hope, and longing so pure that Sophia's smile disappeared, replaced by wide eyes. Howie leaned forward. Heidi covered her mouth. And then, slam! The golden buzzer. 5 seconds. That's all it took. Gold rained from the ceiling as the crowd exploded, screaming, crying, standing on their feet. Eli's eyes flew open in shock, his song collapsing into sobs as he dropped to his knees. He didn't even realize he was crying until his face was wet and his chest hurt. Simon stood up, something rare, and nodded slowly, like he'd just witnessed something undeniable. Sophia rushed onto the stage, hugging Eli as he shook, repeating, I didn't know. In that moment, millions of viewers felt it too. Not just excitement, but recognition. Because Eli wasn't perfect. He wasn't polished. He was real. He sounded like every kid who ever felt invisible, every dreamer told to be practical, every heart that kept going despite the odds. But the story didn't end with the golden buzzer. That was only the beginning. Behind the scenes, pressure hit like a wave. Overnight, Eli went from unknown to viral sensation. Interviews, rehearsals, expectations. Comments online were brutal and beautiful all at once. Some called him a once-in-a-generation talent. Others said he was a fluke. Eli read everything, even when he shouldn't have. Doubt crept back in, whispering that maybe 5 seconds didn't mean he could last 5 minutes. His biggest challenge wasn't the next performance. It was believing he deserved to be there. During rehearsals, Eli struggled. His voice cracked. His confidence dipped. One night, he called his mom, ready to quit. She listened quietly and then said, "You didn't sing for them. You sang because you had something to say. Don't forget that." On the night of his next performance, Eli walked on stage calmer, not because he wasn't scared, but because he accepted the fear. He sang again, not louder, not flashier, but deeper. The judges felt it. The crowd felt it. And this time, Eli felt it too. He didn't win the competition in the end. But something far greater happened. A record label called. Schools invited him to speak. Kids messaged him saying they picked up a microphone, a guitar, a dream, because of him. Eli moved his mom out of that tiny apartment. He kept writing songs, not chasing buzzers anymore, but truth. And that first moment, that golden buzzer in 5 seconds, became a reminder to the world that talent isn't always loud or perfect. Sometimes it's quiet, shaking, and brave enough to step forward anyway. If this story moved you even a little, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like Eli's remind us that miracles don't always take time, sometimes they take 5 seconds of courage. The crowd was still settling into their seats when something unbelievable happened, and if you stay with me until the final moment of this story, you'll see why the judges themselves said this performance changed the meaning of a golden buzzer forever. Before we begin, if stories that shock you, move you, and leave you inspired are your thing, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because moments like this deserve to be remembered. The stage lights were brighter than anything Maya Lopez had ever seen. They made her feel small, like a shadow standing in the middle of a dream that didn't belong to her. She was 21, but life had aged her faster. Her hands were rough from cleaning offices at night, her eyes tired from sleeping only a few hours before early morning classes she could barely afford. Singing wasn't a hobby for Maya, it was survival. She sang while mopping floors, while riding the bus home at dawn, while trying not to cry in the quiet of her room. Backstage, contestants warmed up their voices, laughing nervously. Maya sat alone, clutching a folded photograph of her younger brother. He was the reason she was there. He used to sit on the floor and listen to her sing when things at home got bad. He used to say, "One day, you'll sing on a big stage, and I'll be right there." He never got the chance. Losing him broke something inside Maya, but it also lit a fire she couldn't put out. When her name was called, she stood slowly, legs shaking. Every step toward the stage felt like walking through her own fear. The judges greeted her kindly, but she barely heard them. Her heart was pounding too loudly. When Simon asked what she'd be doing, she simply said, "I'm going to sing the song I never got to finish." The audience grew quiet. There was no dramatic introduction. No story stretched out for sympathy. Just silence. Then Maya opened her mouth. 5 seconds. That's all it took. Her voice wasn't just beautiful, it was devastating. It carried grief, love, regret, and strength all at once. The first note cut through the theater like lightning, and before anyone could even process what they were hearing, a judge slammed the golden buzzer. Gold burst from above, raining down as gasps turned into screams. Maya froze. She thought it was a mistake. She stopped singing, eyes wide, tears streaming before she could stop them. The judge stood, pointing at her with certainty, saying, "That wasn't a performance. That was a moment." The audience rose to their feet, many crying openly. Maya dropped to her knees, overwhelmed by applause that felt unreal, undeserved, impossible. In that instant, the years of struggle, the nights of exhaustion, the loneliness, all of it collided with hope. But fame doesn't erase pain overnight. After the buzz faded, pressure returned. People expected perfection now. Online comments dissected every breath she took. Rehearsals brought frustration when emotions became too heavy to control her voice. She doubted herself constantly, wondering if 5 seconds of magic could carry her forward. One night, alone in the theater after rehearsal, Maya sang again, not for judges, not for cameras, but for her brother. The sound echoed softly in the empty room, and she remembered why she started. Not to win. Not to be famous. But to feel close to something she'd lost. Her next performance wasn't flawless, but it was honest. And honesty resonated. Judges praised her growth. The crowd listened in silence, hanging on to every word. Maya smiled for the first time without fear. She didn't win the entire competition, but she won something far greater. She found her voice without apology. She inspired thousands who felt unseen. She proved that pain doesn't disqualify you, it prepares you. And that golden buzzer in 5 seconds? It became a reminder that sometimes the world doesn't need convincing. Sometimes it just needs truth. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You never know, someone watching right now might be one brave step away from their own 5-second miracle. The judges were still adjusting their microphones when the impossible happened, and if you stay with this story until the very end, you'll understand why people say this was the fastest golden buzzer moment in AGT history. Before we begin, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this don't just entertain, they remind us why dreams matter. The boy standing backstage was barely 16, and his name was Noah Reed. He looked younger than everyone else there, shoulders hunched, hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands like armor. While other contestants rehearsed confidently, Noah sat on the floor with his back against the wall, headphones in, eyes closed, breathing slowly. This wasn't excitement. This was survival. Music had always been his escape from a life that felt too loud and too lonely. His parents argued constantly. School felt like a battlefield. And his voice was the only place where he felt heard. Noah had never sung in front of more than 3 people before. Most of his performances were whispered into a phone recorder late at night, hoping no one would hear him through the thin walls. When he auditioned online, he didn't expect a callback. When he got one, he almost deleted the email. Fear nearly won. But his grandmother, the only person who ever told him he was special, had passed away months earlier, and her last voicemail still echoed in his mind, "Don't hide what God gave you." When his name was called, his legs nearly gave out. The stage lights hit him hard, and for a moment, he forgot how to breathe. The crowd felt massive, endless. The judges smiled politely, but their expressions were unreadable. Simon asked him how he was feeling. Noah swallowed and said quietly, terrified. But ready. The music didn't start. Noah raised the microphone, hands shaking, and sang the first line a cappella. 5 seconds. That's all it took. His voice was soft but haunting, fragile but steady, like glass that somehow didn't break. In those first few seconds, the entire room fell silent. You could hear people holding their breath. And then, without warning, the golden buzzer was slammed. Gold exploded from above, and the audience erupted in disbelief. Noah stopped singing instantly, eyes wide, mouth trembling. He looked around like he was dreaming, like someone might wake him up at any second. Tears spilled down his face as the judges stood, applauding in shock. One of them said, "That voice doesn't belong to a scared kid. It belongs to an artist." Noah collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed. In that moment, every time he was ignored, every time he felt invisible, every night he cried into his pillow, it all came rushing out. Millions watching at home felt it too. This wasn't just talent. This was truth. But the golden buzzer didn't erase Noah's fears. In the weeks that followed, the pressure was crushing. He worried he couldn't live up to the moment. His voice cracked during rehearsals. He struggled with confidence. Social media praised him one day and doubted him the next. The noise returned, louder than ever. One night before the live shows, Noah almost quit. He sat alone on the stage after everyone left, staring at the empty seats. He sang softly, just for himself. No cameras. No judges. Just honesty. And for the first time, he didn't sound afraid. On performance night, Noah walked out differently. Still nervous, but grounded. He sang with emotion instead of fear. Every lyric felt lived in. The audience listened in silence, then rose to their feet. The judges praised not just his voice, but his courage. Noah didn't win the competition. But he won something more powerful. He found confidence. He found community. He found proof that his voice mattered. Music producers reached out. Fans sent letters saying his audition gave them hope. And somewhere, he believed his grandmother was smiling. That golden buzzer in 5 seconds became more than a moment, it became a message. That you don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to be fearless to be brave. Sometimes all it takes is 5 seconds of honesty to change your life forever. If this story inspired you, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Because the next life-changing moment might belong to someone who almost didn't believe in themselves. Just like Noah, the audience hadn't even finished clapping for the previous act when something happened that no one was ready for, and if you stay with this story until the very end, you'll understand why the judges later said they felt their hearts stop within the first 5 seconds. Before we begin, if moments that shock you, move you, and remind you why dreams still matter mean something to you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us, because this story is unforgettable. Backstage stood a man most people would have overlooked. His name was Daniel Moore, 32 years old, quiet, with a calm smile that barely hid years of struggle. He didn't look like a headline. He didn't look like someone about to change the room. He leaned on a simple black cane, adjusting the strap of his worn backpack, breathing deeply as the muffled sound of the crowd seeped through the walls. Few people knew his story. Fewer still knew what it took for him to stand there. Daniel used to be a dancer. Not casually, obsessively. Dance was his language, his escape, his future. Until the accident. One rainy night, a car ran a red light. Daniel woke up in a hospital bed with doctors telling him he might never walk without assistance again, let alone dance. His world collapsed in a sentence. Friends moved on. Opportunities disappeared. Mirrors became enemies. For years, music hurt too much to hear. But pain has a strange way of reshaping dreams instead of destroying them. When Daniel's name was called, the crowd noticed the cane immediately. A ripple of curiosity spread through the theater. He walked slowly to center stage, each step deliberate. The judges greeted him warmly. Simon asked about the cane, gently but directly. Daniel smiled and said, "It's not a weakness. It's part of my story." He explained that he would be dancing. A murmur ran through the audience. Some smiled politely. Some looked unsure. Expectations lowered without anyone meaning to. Daniel felt it. He always did. The music began softly. Daniel didn't move at first. Then, in the first 5 seconds, everything changed. He let go of the cane. Gasps echoed through the theater as Daniel shifted his weight, finding balance not in strength, but in trust. His movement was slow, intentional, and deeply emotional. Every step carried history. Every gesture told a story of loss, frustration, and resilience. It wasn't flashy. It was honest. And before anyone could even process what they were witnessing, the golden buzzer slammed. Gold exploded from the ceiling as the crowd erupted, many already in tears. The judges leapt to their feet in disbelief. Daniel froze mid-movement, eyes wide, breath caught in his chest. For a moment, he thought he imagined it. Then the gold fell onto his shoulders, and he broke. He dropped to his knees, sobbing openly, hands covering his face as years of pain poured out in seconds. One judge rushed the stage, hugging him tightly. Another said through tears, "That wasn't a dance. That was a victory." Millions watching felt it deep in their bones. This wasn't inspiration for show. This was survival turned into art. But the golden buzzer didn't make the road easy. Rehearsals were brutal. Daniel's body didn't always cooperate. Pain returned. Doubt screamed louder than applause. Online comments questioned whether he could keep up, whether his body would hold out, whether 5 seconds had been a mistake. Some days, Daniel believed them. One night, alone in the studio, he sat on the floor beside his cane, staring at his reflection. He almost quit. Again. Then he remembered the hospital room. The silence. The doctor's voice telling him what he'd lost. And he realized something had changed. This time, he had proof that his story mattered. Daniel adjusted his choreography, not to hide his limitations, but to include them. He danced with vulnerability instead of perfection. With truth instead of tricks. On live performance night, he walked onto the stage stronger, not physically, but emotionally. He danced again, every movement filled with intention. When he stumbled slightly, he recovered without shame. The audience didn't flinch. They stood. They cheered. They believed. Daniel didn't win the entire competition. But he won his life back. He opened dance workshops for people with disabilities. he spoke to accident survivors. He reminded people that ability isn't about what you lost, it's about what you choose to do